Hello, I'm Dr. Rakesh Khanal. In this video, I will talk about flipped learning and innovative active learning pedagogy. This video will present an overview focusing on three ideas: what is flipped learning, how it works, and why we should adopt this pedagogy. At the end, I will also present some of my thoughts regarding its implementation challenges and some future areas of research. So without ado, let's get started. To begin with, let's try to understand some of the ideas behind the evolution of flipped learning. What are the theories of learning behind flipped teaching, and where does this flipped stands in those theories of learning? The first one is transmission pedagogy. Transmission pedagogy is commonly known as sage on the stage philosophy, or teacher-centered method, or traditional method of teaching. Sage on a stage is a teaching method where teacher imparts knowledge by lecturing to their class. In other words, the expert providing their knowledge to others so that they could learn from their wisdom. The teacher transmits their knowledge to the students who passively observe the material, and later on they use it for their learning. This method of teaching was later extended with tutorials, laboratories, and workshops, but the academic remained the expert, providing the knowledge to the students. This method still remains a central method of teaching in most part of the world. But with the advancement of digital technology and beginning of internet search such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, now the informations are at the fingertips of the students, and teachers are no longer considered the sole source of knowledge or expert of knowledge. Teachers are one of the means of getting knowledge for students. Under this scenario, it has become very important to look for different styles of teaching and learning, where different style of learning can be addressed and how that can be done. In that quest, various pedagogical styles has been developed. The next in this line is behaviorist pedagogy. This one is better than traditional style of teaching and learning. And in this pedagogical approach, one could expect to see a mixture of lecturing, modeling, and demonstration, along with rote learning sometime as well. All these activities are visible and structured, and they are led by the teachers. So even though some sort of activities are involved in this teaching and learning pedagogy, the teachers are still the authority, and they are leading the class. So it is still considered as a teacher-centered in that respect. So another pedagogy in this line is constructivist pedagogy. So this pedagogy focused on how students learn rather than a subject or content being taught. Constructivism theory is based on observation and scientific study about how people learn. It says that people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on those experiences. In most general sense, it usually means encouraging students to use active technique of learning to create more knowledge, and then to reflect on and talk about what they are doing and how they understand and how their understanding is changing. So in that respect, this pedagogy make a paradigm shift from teacher earlier sage on the stage to guide on the side, and the students from passive receiver to active learner. So this is a dramatic shift in the theory of learning. And this pedagogy addressed the need of different style of learning as well, such as problem-based learning, collaborative learning, inquiry-based learning, and so on and so forth. It is well known fact that if there is a gap between the way a student learns and the way the teacher teaches, if there is a gap, then it will create a problem in learning process of a students. So different people have different style of learning, and your pedagogical style should be able to address those learning needs. And constructivist pedagogy is pointing towards that direction. Following this, there is another pedagogy which is called social constructivism pedagogy. And in a simple term, this pedagogy can be considered as a blend of behaviorist and constructivist pedagogy. Social constructivism is a social learning theory which posits that individuals are active participants in creation of their own knowledge. For instance, students learn primarily through interaction with their peers, teachers, and parents, whereas teachers stimulate and facilitate conversation through harnessing the natural flow of conversation in the classroom. Social constructivism suggests that successful teaching and learning is heavily dependent on interpersonal interaction and discussion, with the primary focus on the student's understanding of the discussion. So this tries to put some more weight on active participation of students and a student-centric approach. And this approach, this pedagogy is, we can say that flipped learning is fall under this category. So flipped learning is an example of this category, which promotes active learning and which encourages the students' participations as well as teachers' participation as well, but as a not as a sage on the stage, but as a guide on the side. There are many synonymous terms used in literature for flipped learning. Some of them are inverted classroom, flipped classroom, inverted learning, and just-in-time teaching. So with this brief idea of where flipped learning stands in a pool of pedagogies of learning and teaching. So after this initial introductions, let's try to understand a little bit more about the timeline of flipped learning, what we consider today as a flipped classroom, how this has evolved. So it started in 1997. Harvard professor Eric Major used the innovative pedagogy in around 90s, which he called peer instruction, to teach his physics class. Peer learning is a student-centric approach. This approach incorporates many of the operating principles of flipped learning. After that, in 1998, two more academics, Barbara and Virginia, proposed a model of pre- and post-class learning. This is also a student-centered approach and incorporates operating principles of flipped learning. In 2000, a paper was published by Moradin and colleagues, and this paper talks about inverted classroom for student-centric approach of teaching and learning, where activities that traditionally takes place inside classroom takes place outside the classroom and vice versa. So we can consider this as a turning point for the development of flipped learning, what we know today. And in 2007, Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sands high school science teachers from Woodland Park High School in Colorado. They started delivering content by online videos outside the class, and the class time is used for more productive and effective learning activities, and they call it flipped classroom. And this is the common terminology used nowadays, and they are credited for using this terminology. So this timeline has clearly shown us how the current form of flipped learning or flipped classroom has evolved and developed. And this idea of flipped learning has been in academia from quite a long time. Now it is finding its use, especially after the development of digital technology, internet, online videos, and multimedias. This technique of flipped learning is finding its way. With this understanding, let's try to understand a little bit more about what actually is flipped and how do we define flip. If we want to try to define flip, it is quite difficult in the sense that you cannot find one agreed definition about flipped learning in the literature. The reason is traditional class can be flipped in many ways, and the model adopted largely depends on operational definition of the flipped classroom established by the teacher, as it is contextual, and there is no single agreed definition of flipped classroom approach reported in the literature. But the underlying principle of flipping the activities, what you do in a class, you do at home, and what you do at home, you do at class. These basic philosophy remains there. If we look at the flip in more detail, what we can say that there are two main aspects of flip learning. One is computer-based individual learning and interactive and collaborative learning inside the class. The main idea of flip is to flip the instructional approach, where the teacher creates videos and interactive lessons to be completed by students before class time, while class time is best utilized to work through problems, advance concepts, and to engage in collaborative learning. The learning activities gets flipped. Basically, what you do at home, you do at a class, and what you do at class, you do at home. By flipping the classroom, deeper learning can be achieved as part of active learning by assigning activities before and during the class and even after the class. Flip learning moves instruction out of the classroom and into a personalized environment at home. Self-paced video instruction allows the student to control the rate at which the lesson is delivered, empowering them to interrupt and listen to the lessons whenever they wish to. And if they are confused, they can rewind them and they can listen again and again, so that this learning is self-paced. Now let's try to understand how flipped learning works. So the flipped learning aligns perfectly with Bloom's taxonomy, and we all are aware of the Bloom's taxonomy, which is a way of categorizing cognitive tasks in terms of their difficulty or complexity, are developed around 1950s, and it is updated in 2000. What you are seeing is the updated version of Bloom's taxonomy. They have different stages of these cognitive understanding and cognitive difficulties. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. They are not in hierarchical process in the sense that all are equally important, but they have a different level of complexity involved in students' learning. Remembering is all about retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding is constructing meaning from oral, written, and graphic message through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. Applying is all about carrying out or using a procedure for executing or implementing certain tasks. Analyzing, breaking material into constituent parts, determining how the parts relate to one another and to an overall structure or purpose through differentiating, organizing, and attributing. Evaluating is all about making judgment based on criteria and standard through checking and critiquing. And creating is all about putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole. Reorganizing elements into new pattern and structure through generating, planning, or producing. When we look at the Bloom's taxonomy from traditional lecturing point of view, basically a chalk and talk method, or what we call a stage on the stage method, it is assumed that the learners encounter new ideas for the first time in their class setting, where it is assumed that they have zero knowledge of the new topic, and the focus of the class time is on the bottom half of the Bloom's taxonomy. So the bottom half of the Bloom's taxonomy is the focus for traditional learning. And then the students work out the more complicated extension of that basic knowledge, the upper half of the Bloom's taxonomy, through work done after class, especially homeworks or projects. Whereas in flip learning, which literally inverts the focus in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, where the bottom parts of the Bloom's are reserved for the students' self-instruction through structured activities, and class time is focused on the upper parts of the Bloom's taxonomy. And then topmost part of the Bloom's taxonomy, which involves complex tasks, can be done as a part of post-learning, according to the flip model of teaching. So as we can see, there is a entirely different pattern of learning when we adopt a flip learning as compared to that of traditional learning, keeping the same Bloom's taxonomy. It's all about how you utilize your important, valuable class time in applying and analyzing the concept rather than understanding and remembering, which students can do on their own before the class through instructional videos and other related materials and activities. Now, the whole idea of flip can also be better understood through three-stage process. So it has three stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Stage 1 is all about pre-learning, pre-class learning, which is asynchronous and self-paced. Stage 2 is all about synchronous activity and faculty-guided activity. And the third stage is post-class learning, which is asynchronous. In the pre-class learning, the flip learning focuses on the bottom 1/3 of Bloom's taxonomy, that is tasks related to remembering and understanding. The students then use these tasks on their own, prior to the class through structured activity. Some of these examples of these tasks can be seen, such as instructional videos, readings, PowerPoint slides, pre-class quizzes, discussions board, chat rooms. This offloaded content is aimed to provide mobility to students' learning by enabling them to have access to learning resources anywhere, anytime, and with various devices at their own pace before the actual class time. A learning management system in this respect is very, very crucial. How learning management system is being implemented plays a vital role as well. With this approach of flipping the class time can be used in more meaningful and collaborative learning with various activities designed to encompass more critical thinking and problem solving. Some of the examples of those activities can be seen, such as worked examples, simulation activities, students' presentation, demonstrations, debate, real-world examples. And in the third stage, where students do the post-class learning, the Bloom's taxonomy upper half, one-third part is trying to focus on that. And this talk is all about applying and analyzing. These are the simplest extension of basics and will be the place where the students need most immediate help. So they will focus on that. In class learning, they will focus on that, where the teachers will provide them the help they needed. And after that, they go to the post-class learning, where they do much more activities based on what they have done in class learning. And some of the examples of that post-class learning can be assignments, report, portfolio performance, reflection, fieldwork report, project, or research. So in this way, this whole Bloom's taxonomy has been divided into three parts: bottom one-third, middle one-third, and top one-third. Bottom one-third, pre-class; middle one-third, in-class learning; and top one-third, bottom class learning. Sorry, that's a post-class learning. So the flipped learning allows for self-paced work. The students who needs more time to achieve mastery does not get left behind, and the students who masters the same concept quickly is able to move on. As a result, both learners reach their full potentials, and many times students' behavior in class improves as each children is more engaged. In that way, FLIP gives a means to address the need of different style of learning of different learners. So it is an excellent pedagogical approach to address different needs of learners. And now, why then flip learning? What is the idea? Why should we adopt this? There are many advantages of adopting the flip. Some of those are to foster the active learning as an alternate to traditional approach. The flipped classroom method is one of the innovative teaching approaches adopted by many educators as an alternate to the traditional lecture-based approach to teach and to foster the active learning. Active learning enhances graduate attributes such as critical thinking, teamwork, communication skills, and overall learning outcomes. Thus, it contributes towards fostering higher order thinking, problem solving, and critical analysis skills. These are the attributes which are essential to become a successful in their career later on. So it's an excellent approach as compared to traditional lecture-based approach to foster critical thinking, teamwork, communication skills, and other important graduate attributes. It is also important to transform the students from passive learner to active learner by engaging them in a problem solving and higher order of critical thinking through collaborative and challenging class tasks. Also, flipped learning is finding its way in various fields of study, ranging from engineering, science, medicine, social science, management, project management. There are a few to name. So there are almost all field of study where flipped learning can be applied, and literature is filled with those experience and results. And also, flipped learning is important to cater the need of growing digital natives. So flipped learning utilizes digital technology, digital media, online tools, online medias, and these are a familiar term for digital natives, the students who are the digital natives and who are grown up with internets. Their needs can also be catered through flipped learning. What are the implementation challenges? After having gone through some basic ideas behind the flip learning, what it is, what sort of a theoretical background it has, and how it works with respect to Bloom's taxonomy, let's try to understand a little bit about the implementation challenges. From my own experience as an educator, implementing flip learning for quite some time, I myself have found a couple of challenges, and it's better to understand those challenges beforehand. Beforehand, we plan our next flip class. Those challenges can broadly be classified as a student-related challenges. Under this, the student disengagement is one of the biggest problem or challenges, or you can say issues related with the successful implementation of flip learning. The students' disengagement is a major blow to successful implementations. Flip learning is all about student involvement. It is an active student participation is needed in flipped learning. It is a student-centric. So if the students are not engaged in pre and after class activity as well as in-class activity, its success cannot be guaranteed. So this is one of the prime challenges for all educators who would like to implement flip in their unit, how they should promote this kind of a motivational kind of a things to their students. Another challenge is the length of instructional videos. Not all materials are easily or readily available in YouTube and other online platforms, so it has to be created. While creating and curating material which is already available, the length is of very important. What is the minimum length? There are many research has been done, but what actually should be the length? You do not want to put too long videos or too short videos. If there is too long videos, the students may lose interest. If it's the short videos, you may not be able to give the kind of a instructions or kind of a concept which you wish them to know before coming to the class. So this deciding the length of instructional video is another challenges from the teacher's perspective, and from the student's perspective also. The length makes a big challenge. Generally, students do not want to go through a lengthy videos. Out of class support related to pre and after class activities. So immediately the students cannot get support if they have some doubts or if they have some problem while they are doing after class and before class activities. That's another challenges, and sometimes this is another hindrance for students to lose their motivations while they are doing their pre-class activities or after-class activities, and they got stuck somewhere and there's nobody immediately for them to assist or guide, and that may be another hindrance for them to get along and get going with the flip learning. Difficulty in adopting a new pedagogy when many of the classes are still traditional. This is one of the typical challenges that many students faced. If your institution does not have a consistent policy in implementing the flip class, some class may have flipped, some is not. So students find it quite difficult to adopt from one class to another class. In one class, the entire teaching and learning is based on flipping the content, flipping the class. In other, it is still a traditional, so there is an inconsistency in approach. So students find it quite difficult in adopting. That's another part which is need to be considered, and it is a challenge to the students to adopt to this two different kind of a teaching approaches in one institution. Another challenge is workload. The students often reported that they are overwhelmed by the kind of the activities that is asked for them to go through before the class and after the class. So they often view those activities as some extra activities, and they are putting some extra load on their usual student workload. That's another challenge. And the final one I would suggest, or I would put, is internet connection, internet connectivity. That's another challenge, especially during this era of pandemic, where most of the colleges or educational institutions are online, and the students are getting connected to their educational institutes through the internet, and this connectivity is another threat to successful implementations of the flip learning, if you'd like to do so. Another aspect is teacher challenge. From the teacher's perspective, what are the challenges that is there for them? There may be many, but some of the one which I felt important to share is increase in workload in creating flip learning materials. So materials are not readily available. Even though they are available, they may not suit your content or your context or your subject. So you have to create your own. And creating a material suitable for flip takes considerable amount of time, at least at the initial stage of preparation. So it will add more workload. So that's another challenge from the teacher's perspective. When it comes to the technology, how familiar you are with the technology, how good you are at technology, that's another important thing. So if you are digital naive, then it's again be a challenge for you to get along with the kind of a philosophy that flip learning would like to promote. You have to have this kind of a technological knowledge as well to smoothly run the flip class. Another one is you are not accustomed with the flip philosophy, and this is quite common with most of the educators who are taught in traditional way and who would like to teach in the traditional way. If you ask them to make a shift in their mode of delivery, they could not understand the philosophy behind this active learning, and that could be another challenge. That is an operational challenge if you want to try to implement. The final one is the operational challenge, especially from the educational institution point of view, and as well as monitoring and evaluating the students' work progress, especially in terms of their work before and after class. There is no way that you can monitor how they are progressing in the tasks which you ask them to do. So the monitoring is a operational challenge from teachers' point of view as well. Another one is lack of IT infrastructure to support flip learning. So flip learning needs a certain IT infrastructure, especially LMS, learning management software, where you put all the material which you have developed or curated or collated that need to be made available to the students. So there must be a system such as a Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard. These are some of the most widely used LMS. Nowadays, the trend is to go towards Canvas. If you do not have such kind of a system, then implementing flip classroom can be a challenge because it is not only the face-to-face part of the flip learning, it is also the pre and post part of the flip learning, where material needs to be provided to the students, which they can access easily and readily. That material should be available, and to have those available in online platform, web-based platform, that the system must be there. Another challenges is lack of institutional investment in supportive technology. If your institution does not have a philosophy where they would like to invest in new pedagogical approaches, or they do not have a supportive technology, then that could be another operational challenge if somebody wants to implement flip in their class. Similar to that is the lack of adequate institutional support for flip learning, especially if you're head of department, if you're dean, or if your professors are not supportive of the idea of implementing a new pedagogy, then that would be another hindrance in a way to implement flip from operational point of view. So something like a total quality management, where you involve everyone. Similarly, in implementing the flipped as a new way of teaching, you need to get everyone on board, and you need to have an agreed understanding so that you will have an adequate support to get going with your idea of implementing flipped in your classroom. After having this kind of challenges discussed, there are a few points which I would like to share as a suggestions. What else can we do to promote flip learning? The first and foremost, try to make the student understand of paradigm shift from teacher-centered to student-centered approach. This is a student-centric approach, and students need to understand that teachers are the facilitators, and they have to take the responsibility of their own learning. That is very, very essential and crucial for successful implementation of flip learning, and that idea must be properly communicated. And in doing so, we need to clarify the doubts, and there should not be any doubts regarding this new pedagogy. And if there is any doubt, that has to be clarified, because clarity reduces the anxiety. If there still remains unclear about the new approach, new methods, that may create anxiety, which in turn will have impact on their learning. And we need to encourage students to break the stereotype and to contribute to overall learning process. Flipped is student-centric, whose success is largely depends on the students' participation. So we need to encourage them to participate actively in class tasks, as well as pre-class learning and after-class learning. So these are some of the few things which I think we should promote if we want to implement flip in our unit. We can implement a flip in our whole unit, or whole course, or some topic. It is always, my suggestion is always that we should start implementing flip in a unit basis. You can start doing that with a topic to see how your students perceive it, and then once everybody is fine with that, you can move to unit and then course. So that is a progress if you'd like to make, if you really want to implement the flip. That's my suggestions from my own experience. This is how I implemented the flip. I implemented the flip first with a topic, and then unit, and then a course. So that is the progression that I did, and that way it is easy to make them understand slowly, one at a time. With this, a few thoughts. Let me also share about what are the areas of future research in the area of flip learning. And there are many unexplored areas, but the one which I think needs some immediate attentions are flip learning and intrinsic motivations. So what is the relationship between the students' motivation and the flipped classroom approach, especially in terms of their intrinsic motivation, how flipped is able to improve the intrinsic motivation of the students, or vice versa. So what is the relationship? These kind of studies is very, very important if we really want to see how flip is going to make a drastic change in the way or in the behavior that your students learn. Another area is online flipped. So far, the model, whatever we discussed, whatever is in practice, is about a face-to-face, where the in-class activities is carried out face-to-face in presence of a teacher, where teacher acts as a facilitator. Now, at present, most of the institutions all over the world, are online and they're teachings remotely in an environment of emergency remote learning. At this environment, how a flip can be used, especially I would like to say as an online flip, how online flip can be implemented. Can we still use the another model of flip which has been in practice, especially for the face-to-face flip? Can we still use that, or if we have to use some other model, what would be that model and how that need to be implemented? These are some immediate need and concern if we need to address that. That's going to be a great contribution in the field. That is what I think. So that is another area of research that we as educators can think of, how this online flip can be implemented and what would be its impact. Another one is flip learning and desired learning outcomes. So what is the relationship between flip and the overall learning outcome? Still, this area is not well understood. We know that flip is definitely helping students in achieving the graduate attributes, but what about the overall learning outcomes? Every topic has their own learning outcomes. TLOs, topic learning outcomes, unit learning outcome, course learning outcomes, how all these outcomes are related with the flip learning. This area is still to be researched. So that is another area which also needs some immediate attention and research from a research opportunity. So these are some of the areas of research which I think if we could spend some time on researching and analyzing, that's going to be a great contribution to the field as well. So this is my thought on future area of research. So with this, I would like to bring my word of caution. Just remember, flip learning is like risk management, not one size fits all approach. So flip is contextual. So while implementing the flip, we should not try to adopt what has been adopted in some other part of the world, and we cannot use the same in my context. We have to see what is my context and what I am trying to achieve through the flip learning and why flip learning I am doing the flip learning. This area, this objective must be clearly understood, and we have to adopt the model to suit our need. But the underlying principle remains the same. That is, what you do in class, you do at home, and vice versa. Keeping that underlying principle the same, we need to adopt. We need to change the model to suit our context and our need and our objective. That is what I meant by saying it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So with this, thank you very much for your time and watching this video. Thank you all.